Hello everyone, welcome back. In this session, we are gonna see how to use Flask and PyMongo to create a dynamic web object. Most of the time, in real-time cases, we will not serve most static content, so we might depend on some database. In our case, we are depending on MongoDB. So ensure that before moving on further, you would have installed MongoDB in your system and MongoDB is running. Okay, so right now for viewing purpose, I'm using Robo3D. So in your case, you might have used Mongo Compass or terminal to connect to the MongoDB. So if you notice here, I'm using the Mongo shell version 4.2.1. So you can just check whether this command is working. If not, you just install it and then come back to this session and then you can go ahead further. Okay. So before moving on further, we need to start the server. As we learned in the previous sessions, we have covered a couple of other APIs using Flask. The first one we have just started with the simple, then we have worked on with the post and get method, and we also passed a dynamic path parameter and then query parameters, and also we have tried with the data types. Then followed by we have worked with the dictionaries, updating of dictionaries, and then we also worked with more than one list, how we can effectively utilize the dictionary, and then we also done using spread operator. Okay, so in this session we will be covering we are taking data from the client. So in our case we will be using HTTP, the VS code extensions REST client, but in your course you might have called this API from the front end or with a simple HTML, or you might have connected with React or Angular, Servlet, or you just any front end framework that you can use. But for now, our major focus is on working with PyMongo, so we are not spend much time on that. So we'll just come on this part and then we'll do the splitter. Post/users. User. Okay, so this is our route/user. This accepts both get, post, and delete. If not, we can also put. Okay, we will not cover post, delete, and put and delete now. So we'll be focusing on get and post now. Okay, so first, whenever we do such a thing, always try to print whether you are in the right place. So this will help us to understand whether it is running correctly. Is there any caching issues or some sort of thing? So before moving on further, always ensure that we are in the right place. So before that, here we have to start the server. Okay, how to start the server for a class? So we might have to set the debug app, and then we have to activate the virtual environment. So as in the previous sessions, we have covered using shell script how we can switch between the projects. So I have created a shell script. So what it does, it will deactivate the virtual environment if it is already running something, then navigate to the respective directory, and then there are two more scripts to run. So those two scripts will keep it in the local project folder. So one is to activate the virtual environment, another one to run the Flask app. So we are adding the debug flag so that whenever any changes happen, then it will automatically detect the changes and start running. Okay. So now you got an idea. So I'll pin it in the top the link. If you want to learn more about the shell script, you can just have a look at it. So we'll just start the server by calling the shell script name. So in our case, an API. Of course, now the port is running on 27.0.0.7. There is an IP address, and then good to go. Now we'll come back. Then we'll check whether the API is running. Okay, so we got a success user, and also we have to cross check whether with method is called. Okay, so we have called using get by default. So here we have called get. So we can also adjust the same thing for a post. So we might have to attach the content type. So we'll just attach the content type. That's application for JSON. And then for now we are not passing anything. Okay, we'll just keep it as journal. Okay, so now the success is done. Then this time we are called with post. Okay, you got an idea. So now we'll close this part, we'll come back. Okay, so we are in this place. Now our the main primary focus is to work with PyMongo. As I suggested in any of the sessions, so always depend on the official documentations, so that if there are any changes, it will be easier to change or it will be easier to navigate to the respective areas if you are very comfortable with the documentation. Okay, so in this case, I'll just go to installation. Then we might want to install PyMongo. Okay, pip install. So we have to start the server. Then pip install. If you notice here, the virtual environment is not installed. Okay, so what is the problem? Okay, so maybe I have to check. Okay, right now we are in the virtual environment folder. So we'll stop the server. So ensure that you are inside the virtual environment by checking which Python. I'm using macOS. So we notice here it is pointing to the virtual environment inside the LAN API folder. Okay, so here we might have to install pip install PyMongo. To ensure that these are the case sensitive platforms, so you have to ensure the cases. Sometimes that will be make a problem when you're switching to the environment. Okay, it will take a few seconds to run before let it install. Meanwhile, we'll explore. We'll go to tutorial, then we'll see what is happening. Okay, so as usual, we'll have to import the package and then ensure that the server is running. So in our case, server is running. So if you notice here, there is a local DB I have connected with, so there is no collection called learn. So we are going to create now. So we'll come back and then see. So from PyMongo, we can import the Mongo client, and then we are going to use this string method, so that will be easier to change just as needed, or we can pass it as an argument. Okay, so we are not going to use the arguments, but we'll just pass it as a one argument, that is a string. Okay, after that, from the client variable, we can access the database name. So there are two ways to access. One is with the help of dot notation, another one is with the help of square notation. So we'll preferably go with this one, so that if later point in time if you need to adjust, you can adjust as needed if we have a dynamic collections. The same way from DB we are accessing the collection as it is. Okay, so we'll just come back. Okay, we'll do the predication system. Okay, so we'll start back again. So now the server is started. We'll come back. We'll check it is working perfectly fine, no issues. Good to go. So now we'll come back here. So as I suggested, later point in time we will just move this logic to some other places. For now, I'll just keep it on the top. In some other session we'll try to optimize, and then we'll move it to some other place. Now we have imported a client, and then we might have to ensure that the MongoDB is running on this port. For now, I'll keep it inside so that we don't have to worry much. After that, okay, so whenever we do such a thing, when we are doing a trial and error, let's say it is not related to MongoDB. If you're trying with any database connection, so always try go line by line, so that will be easier for the first time. Okay, so now it is okay. Client is got. It also decoded the host part, so it seems this line is working perfectly fine. We'll go ahead with another line by getting a database. Okay, so we'll remove this line. In our case, I will use the square notation. So there are two ways to access. One is dot, another one is square. So we'll go with square, so that it will be easier to understand for now. Okay, so yeah, so DB. Now again, we'll try to see whether is there any other issues. So ensure that the DB is restarted. Server is restarted. Good to go. Run it. No issues. DB. So we got the DB. Okay, so learn. So we have bypass. So if you notice here, here only past host and then only few parameters. After that, we have accessing the learn. Okay, now we'll go ahead for a collection. Okay, so in our case, we are dealing with user. Okay, because we are trying to store more than one document in this collection, so we'll just try to keep it as a user as a collection. The collection name will be, so we from the DB we might have to access the users. So again, now we'll remove this part and we'll print this. To go, so no issues. So if you notice here again, there is a client, there is a database, there is a collection. So you learn users, etc. It just adjusting the property, I mean the arguments. So now good to go. Now we have something, but this database does not have anything. I mean this learn database does not have any users. So we will insert some data directly with the get method itself. For now, let's say just keep this part. So we are just importing date time. We'll adjust it for a user. So in this case, let's say underscore ID. Okay, we do not need the underscore ID name. Full name. Let's remove this. We do not need this one now. We'll just keep it. So we need to import date time, so we'll just import it. Okay, so good to go. You notice here we have done the date time or date time we have inserted. We do not want to return now, so this will be one user, or we'll just keep it as a new user so that we'll insert it again and again. Then what we want to do, we wanted to insert the document. So how we can insert the document? We can take the db.post. Again, post is the variable, post.insert one. So we'll just try to keep it as one line. So what is the collection name? We do not want to do this for now because we directly go from the db. So we'll just db dot. I'll try to keep it as MDB, MongoDB, something like that, so that we don't have to be much later. Okay. So what is the collection name in our case? Users dot insert underscore one. It's suggesting good to go, new user, done. Okay, so now we'll try to see how many documents are returning. Okay, first we'll insert. We'll try to see here, is there any collection called learn? You notice here there is no collection called learn. Is it there? No. So we'll go back and then run. So if you notice here, we are not depending on any get or post method. We are directly executing it. Okay, so this is the get or post method. Okay, we are directly dealing inserting the data. So done. So if you go back and then refresh the collection, refresh the database. So there is a run collection is created. There is a collections. There is users. So we have inserted a mic and then there is a date and time. Okay. Now we'll come back. As simple as that. We need not to worry much. So instead of hard coding this data, let's say this is the data which we have hard coded. Instead of that, we will get the data from the request and then we can access it. Okay, so we'll try to use the post method to insert this data. That is the easiest thing to do. So if you notice here, we have age. Okay, instead of age, we'll change it to full name. Okay, now let it be age. So date we will attach it here. So first, how will we access the request data in the in Flask? So if you notice here, you might have accessed with the help of form, with the help of JSON, and also we might have access with the forms, arguments, values. Okay, so for in our case, we are using content JSON, so we'll just go ahead with the JSON data, that is request.json. First, we'll try to print what data is coming. Okay, so let's come. Okay, now we'll go back, run it again. Okay, if you notice here, the data came from the post method. Okay, so now we'll take this data and then insert to the DB. So how we can insert to the DB? So now we have a new user. As well as in the previous sessions, we can easily spread the request JSON data. After that, we might have to include date. Okay, so this will include the date part. After that, we can just do the insert one. As simple as that. but this is the very bad idea to do that. I'll tell you why. Because let's say whatever the users are returning, users are posting in the data, we should not directly insert to the database. So instead of that, we might have to validate what are the data that is required. For example, in this case, full name and age if we required, but as in the previous example, we need only full name. We do not need age. Correct. So always validate it and then insert the data. So in this session, our primary focus is only for handling the DB. We'll just move on with this part. We'll go ahead and then run it again. If you go back and then run the collection again, there'll be two record. One is full name. If you notice here, age also came, but in this data there is my age. Okay. So now we have two records in our DB. So now we can use get method to get these two data. Okay. So we'll use get method. Now we'll call it again. We'll see what is happening. Not the post one, get one. So get one we have called. Nothing is doing right now. So now it's time to query the database. So how we can query the database? There are two ways to do that. One is using find one. Another one will be using find. Find one. This will be helpful when we have only one record that we want to return, but in our case, we are gonna return more than one data, so we'll just use for this part. Okay, but we do not have any filter, so we'll just keep it as simple as explicit. Let's say filter will be empty. So in our case, this will be a user, this will be a mdb.users, then this will be empty filter. I mean, that is filter. Okay, now let's say users as an array. Now what we can do? User start append of user. Now we'll return. So now we might have some other issues, but for now, okay. Let's return it here itself. So we don't want to. Let's take this part and keep it here. Okay. Always, adjust the indentations as you do along the way. Then this will be, let's say, success. I want it to return users. Good to go. Now there is one problem because we are trying to return as a JSON, but this is not a JSON because it also contains date time. We'll try to see if there any problem occurred. Then what we can do, we'll try to fix that part. How do we fix it? Let's say we'll go and call the API. Okay. So if you notice that there are two type of issues. What is that? So what it says that type error, object of type, object ID is not JSON serializable. You know what is JSON serializable? So this also we have learned in the previous sessions. So in JSON, so we have only string, number, object, array, true, false, null. So these are the data that we have. But in our case, there is something passing which is not part of this data type, any one of these data types. So in this case, object ID is something is completely new to the JSON. Okay, so how do we fix that? So in real time scenario, what will you do? We'll just go grab this line, but ensure that there are so many lines are going up. How will you identify which line I have to look for? So always look for the file that you have that you're working on. You notice here this is related to the packages. So inside Python. Okay, so this is nothing to do with this. Always try to see what is something known to you. So in our case, this will be something somewhere, anywhere related to that? No. So learn. So everything is related to this what? Virtual environment. So everything is related to the Flask. So what it does at the time of returning, it has an issue, not in our code. Okay, so it means that something is not directly then you will have straightforward errors, especially when it comes to type error or key error. You will have the straightforward data. I mean the error messages. You can copy this part and you can go here and then try. So as usual, we'll just go here and then grab the lines. But before doing all these things, ensure that you have to understand what is going on here. Okay. So what they are trying to do, they are trying to encode it and returning it. So they are taking an object ID, bs object ID. After that, with the instance of object ID, then they are just converting into strfo. Okay, so how we can integrate this one into Flask? That is the first thing that we have to see. How do we do that? So now we start exploring one way and way down. So one way is, straightforward. You can use encode and then you can return it. So as like specified here, let's say I'll just grab this line, but yeah. So here what it does, it will just take the object and then it trying to check if it is an object ID, it convert into string. If not, it will do the default encoding logic. Okay. We'll take this part. We'll try to keep it nearby. Okay, but these are the not the best thing to do, to keep everything in one file. Till later point time we'll adjust. We'll come back where it is. Yeah, so we'll just grab this line. I think this will be more easier. Now what we will do, so we have to encode with our custom code. Now users, now done. Okay, I need to come back here. So we'll just run it here itself. Okay, so there is no module JSON, so we might have to import JSON. Okay, what is other issue? Module JSON no attribute of encode. Okay, what it says, it does not have something like encode. We'll take this and do it this way. Okay, so now we got an we have got a different error, the similar error. So if you notice here, there is no much difference. So type error here, it trying to look for object of object ID is not JSON serial. In this scenario, object of type of date time was not serial. Why? Because in this data, if you look at the data, one is object ID, another one is date time. But is there any date time in our JSON part? No, we do not have. We have only string, number, object, arrays, true, false, null. The same way, we can take up this line of error and then just do the same thing. Okay, good to go. Now you will get some idea. Let's say here what we are trying to do, we are just passing it some blah blah blah. Okay, the same way. I think you got some relative idea. So last time we have checked with each instance of object. We have tried with what object ID. So here in this case, we are just trying with date time. So only this line we need to adjust in the existing function. This is how we can start improvising our code, and we'll just start learning from that. Okay, so if you notice here, the variable name is O here. We'll just adjust it to O, and then here also O. Here we are not interested in date. Maybe we can introduce date also. Why? What is the problem with that? We can import date time, date. Okay, there is no date here. Okay, for now we'll leave it. We have only one data, that is straightforward. Okay, good to go. Now we'll start running. So if sometimes if we have any other issues, caching issues or stops, so what you can do, you can just stop the server, run it again. So this is where it will be very handy when we have a shell script. So it will just immediately start running. We need not to worry about the command, what command it is. Each instance argument must have a type of tuple. Okay. What I did here, each instant. Okay, this is supposed to be tuple. Okay, so we'll just wrap it with data. Each instant argument must have a type or tuple of types. Okay. Okay, so they have imported from date time, they have imported date time. Understood. So here we supposed to access date time. Then date time dot date. Okay, you got an idea. I will try see. Yes, we got an output. But there is a problem. If you notice here, it is not returning as a JSON. Instead of what it does, it just encoding it and returning it as a string. But we are not interested in string. We are interested in object, right? Array of object. So how do we do that? So this will be a problem for all, I mean, majority of the time, this will be a problem when we have to serialize the whole Flask app, right? So now it's a time to implement something somewhere we have to look into, and then we have to adjust it. So how we can do that? So whenever we have such thing, so Flask, something like that, we might have tried. Okay, we'll try to see. Default encryption, so encryptions will take it up. Okay, so this does not help me anyway. We'll look into this part. Okay, so we can use JSON.dumps. We are passing the dictionary similar to, I think this JSON dumps are using, no, we are using encoding. So instead of that, we'll take up this data. So we have to pass users, then we'll pass our encoding. Okay, we'll try to see. Okay, again, there is something wrong with that. But we need to return it as a what? We need to return it as a JS string. I mean, JSON. Correct. So we have to encode and then we have to decode and then we have to do. No. Okay, for now we'll just again we'll load this data and then we can just pass it. So this will be encoded data. After that we can use JSON loads and we can. Okay, so now we got an idea. So technically, let's say if you're inserting one more data, just passing, I'll change it right now from user1, read, run it, insert it. Now if I call it again, 3 data. I'll change it to 3, sorry 2, send it, I'll send it out. Get method now 4 data. Okay, as simple as that. So the same way we can just start exploring in the accommodation, official accommodations. So here we will just start inserting one data and then we can just start inserting little data. The same way we can just start going through this data to get started. Okay, so in the upcoming session we'll go depth and we'll also try to see how to connect with the client and the server, not with just only the REST client that we have right now. Similarly, we'll try to implement in the front end code and then we'll just call this API and then do some stuff. Okay, and we can also separate these modules. First, we'll move this logic. We'll separate the route and the classes separately, and then we also modularize. We can modularize and then we'll do the other things. For example, most of the time we will not keep the connection string like this. What we will do, we will create a config and then we'll just start moving into small steps so that it can be reusable. I hope this helps to get started. Thank you.